Hi friends, I'm Prairie Vintage. My name's Linda. I'm an energy intuitive reader here on YouTube. I use spirit and my intuition and the tarot to communicate energies to you guys, beautiful, amazing viewers. I'm so glad to be here today. If you're new to my channel, welcome. I hope you stay. And if you are returning, welcome, welcome. I am so blessed, so grateful to have you here again. This is a collective reading and certainly definitely not for everyone, because I think this will be mostly for you guys who have been on the spiritual path. I mean, if you watch tarot cards, most likely you're on a spiritual path, but those of you guys who have been resonating with my new moon readings, like the pick a card specifically, or just the pick a card readings that I've been posting around the new moon, and if you resonate with one of those piles, generally, and if you've been here for a while, even if you're new, this might still resonate, but that frequency is coming through very, very strong, okay? And there's two, I'm going to get into this collective message before I pull tarot to sort of back up or just see what we see in regards to this message. But this reading was really important because Spirit was telling me that there's two sort of energies coming, or two messages coming through. So I don't know if this is going to be all making sense for your frequency, or maybe passing energy and more current energy. Although I feel as though it is one story, but yeah, like passing and present or future energies coming through. So it's all one frequency, although two sort of stories coming through, if this makes sense. So this reading is going to be very, you know, I guess like ethereal, if you will. There isn't going to be really, well, I don't know what I'm going to see here, but there isn't going to be any sort of real 3D sort of promptus outside of just talking about this like spiritual shift in energy that's going on, is what I feel. So these two different energies, one I feel is really dealing with a very heavy depression, if I gotta name it something, although it isn't depression. Okay, so I'm here to confirm it's not depression. It is just a spiritual shift, and it is in a dark place. As those of you guys who have gone through spiritual awakening and spiritual processes, it's not always very pleasant, but it's a very heavy place for a lot of you guys who are battling addictions, trying to break cycles, karmic cycles, and just in a really dark place, maybe the darkest place you've been in, you know, ever really, in your life, and certainly going through this journey trying to navigate. And then there is those of you guys who are pretty ascended, I would say, like who have been spiritually grinding on your ascension, your path, your journey, getting closer to spirit, and really just working with yourself. So I don't know how many of those people are going to be here, because certainly if you work closely with spirit, I don't know why you'd be, well, I don't know, maybe you would still be here listening to me, but certainly I'm so blessed to be reading for both of you guys. But it seems to be one full story, like the people who are graduating, if you will, to this like mastery level, is really what Spirit is saying, on their spiritual path, have been in the dark place. And so I think that this marriage story of the low with the highs is coming through to give hope and guidance to the ones who are in a dark place. And I love this community, and I love all your comments. So certainly wherever you are on this journey, because again, energy isn't linear, so you could be anywhere sitting in this and going kind of back and forth and spiraling. You know, sometimes you're feeling like you're making progress, and then other times you might feel like you're kind of falling behind, although you're constantly moving forward. Okay, you're constantly progressing, but I'd like to know where you're at. And certainly in this community, we're so supportive of each other. So if you are able to add some feedback, some comments on what you've experienced here, that's absolutely welcome. And I am so much looking forward to learning from all of you guys as well here. Of course, we're always working on ascending, getting more in line with our authentic high self. So I'm on that journey as well. But I want to get back to this message. So for the longest time now, well, not the longest, but for like a month and a bit, I've been, and I've talked about this in a couple of my collective readings, or just a few of my readings, like seeing a door. Like I had a significant dream with a door, okay? And of course, doors always represent, like, it could be a portal, right? It was representing like a phase of life. And so that was coming through, but it was coming through again, very profound. And like Spirit was saying, like, this upcoming eclipse is like that doorway that was like building up. And so I didn't know at the time that I was seeing this door. I was like, okay, well, energy was shifting. I could feel the shift. And then with this new moon, I know has been challenging for some of you guys that you guys have been commenting. This new moon for me has been really like peaceful, almost in like a pause period, a pocket in time that has been almost like Spirit's been like really like by my side. Like, it's been very peaceful. I felt. So both could be true for sure, but this doorway going into the eclipse, I feel like, is what Spirit was showing me, like this major phase that's coming in with April's new moon and the eclipse season that we're heading into, and all of the planetary pulls going on around us are going to have a significant impact on karma. Okay, so karmic things that we're dealing with are really, really impacted. So you might see a few readings that I'll be doing around the eclipse, specifically because this energy is heavily charged. But so back to this collective message. So coming into the eclipse, it's like those of you guys who have been in a very challenging place for quite some time, because I've been reading these cards, and a lot of times the messaging comes up pretty consistent. I do see progress, and I love being a part of this journey with all of you guys. It's absolutely a blessing to me. Some of you guys are dealing with situations for the last 2 years in regards to trying to recover from addictions and cycles in your life, and just trying to gain traction. And it's kind of up and down, and maybe there's reason to have hope, and then sometimes there's feelings of, is there anything even going to work out? Is this even going to move forward? And that's absolutely normal. So I wanted to talk about, for those of you guys, well, any place you're at your journey, but what I wanted to talk about, that Spirit was saying to share this, is what I've learned. Okay, so I've been on this spiritual awakening path, slow Kundalini rising, I would say, happening for me, not knowing what the heck is going on. But specifically in the last 3 years, what I learned is that I've learned a lot and I know nothing at all. Okay, so the messaging is, you might think and you probably go down your journey and you realize that you look back and say, I didn't know. Like, I thought I knew, but I had no idea. And your thoughts completely change again. And so this is like a constant revolving door of like changing thoughts, and you keep finding like spiritual information. And when you're in the low point, okay, when you're like really looking for answers, like you're suffering, you're in a dark place, and you just feel really cut off, and no one really seems to understand, and you don't even understand, like, why is there suffering? Like, is this going to get better? Am I supposed to be proactively doing something? And you can just be so exhausted. And so you seek out answers, specifically, most likely, online. And YouTube is a big sort of resource for that. And so you're coming across teachers, tarot readers specifically as well, but teachers who might be providing you with some solace and some guidance, which is awesome. Although the messaging from Spirit was for me to tell you that, yes, as teachers come in, none of these people have any insight more than you have on your own journey. And although we grasp at that insight and that information, because it helps us, right? And I'm not saying don't like get help and completely go blind, but don't take what these people, me included here, okay, what these people are, teachers or gurus, I don't care how long these people have been in spirituality, as the thing that you must be doing. Because what you must be doing is absolutely just being. That's it, okay? There is nothing you're supposed to be hardcore like practicing or doing outside of what you feel passionately called to do. So if you feel passionately called, you want to do yoga, then go ahead. If you feel passionately you want to meditate, then go ahead. Although if you passionately feel it because a teacher has inspired you to do this, don't, well, I'm saying don't, you can do what you want, but watch or be aware of, I guess, if you're doing this passionately to pull yourself out of whatever funk, but then you're attaching yourself to something else, okay? Because it is the attachment of the something else that perpetuates the idea there that someone else or something else is going to be the answer to your spiritual ascension and your spiritual growth. And the growth really happens when you realize that you don't need all of those things, and you might need it for a certain point in time. You might need crystals, you might need meditation, you might need healthy herbs and whatever else that you need to do, and go ahead and do all that stuff. But do not put the pressure on yourself that if you don't meditate every day at like 5 o'clock in the morning, if you don't live your life like a monk for the next whatever 6 months, that you're not ascending or that you're not doing what you're supposed to do. So one, release any judgment of self in this spiritual journey, okay? And then accept the fact that you know as much as the most learnt guru or spiritual teacher, okay? Now, they might use fancy words and they might be able to explain certain concepts, and that's all great because knowledge doesn't hurt to have it, but it's what you do with this. So if you're taking in this knowledge and you're taking it as something that's gospel or the right way, then it's just going to kind of turn back full circle and bite you in the butt, and you'll be back where you started and feel kind of like you haven't made progress. So sometimes going blind might even be the best process, because your own spirituality is the best teacher. Your own understanding of self cannot come from anybody else. And so you know what is right for you, and you'll know that not attaching to a thought or a plan of something is the best way to go. To be flexible and to move with fluidity throughout this process is the right answer. And knowing that you don't know what you don't know, and it's absolutely beautiful to go through and just be, when you release any judgment, when you release any guilt, when you release the fact that you're not maybe where you thought spiritually you should be, or if you've been on this journey again, like, for a year, 2, 3, 5 years, whatever, 10 years, and you're like, why do I feel, like we only have other people really to compare to, like, why do I feel like maybe I'm not where I need to be, or that maybe I need to do this other spiritual practice and and read a million books here and understand this. And Spirit is saying, like, it's okay if you want to do this, but that isn't your answer, okay? It's not your answer at all. So once you release that these people have more understanding, and that you understand that behind all of the thoughts that you have that you are not maybe where you need to be, or all of these thoughts or these stories, behind that is your truest conscious self that's connected to everything, okay? It's connected to me, it's connected to the tree, it's connected to everything and everyone. And so you have what the top guru, most educated spiritual person might know, okay? You know this already. It's already ingrained in your spiritual being. So the cover up, okay, and I talk about this in some of my readings, it's like the cover up is the conditioning, the programming, the stories, and the experiences that we had are the filter in which you're perceiving yourself or the external world. So you're perceiving this thing, so it becomes real to you, right? But it's the filter story, and that is the ego, okay? The program, the ID, like the self that you think is you, or that you tell yourself is you. And so as you see through this perception, it becomes your truth and your reality, but it is distorted in a way because the real objective truth doesn't have a filter of experience. It is the being, the consciousness, the pure being that you are, the closest to God, because you are a part of God, okay? Now, I say God because this is my channel. You can use source, you can use whatever term you like, but God is the term I'm using here. So you are a part of God, creator, and you are perfect being, okay? And every piece that doubts and piece of, I don't know, anything that comes through that isn't pure, any thought that comes in, allow the thoughts to come in, because we have a mind for a reason and the thoughts come in. But these thoughts are coming from programming and conditioning, and it's not coming from the place of source and consciousness, which is the true objective truth. And it's just there already. There's no need to go seek it out. There's no need to attain it external. It's the shedding or the disillusion of the false self and the ego that allows you to be left with pure consciousness, okay? As pure as you can. I mean, there's always bits of ego here, but ego is really a survival mechanism here to fend for self, right? Especially back millennia. Like, obviously it was, you'd have to fend for yourself and your family and keep alive. And so this ego is like a fight or flight reaction that's like ingrained within us. But those are really primal human sort of traits that evolve through time, only because as collective consciousness, we are raising our vibration, right? We're raising our vibration. And so we're no longer like living in caves, right? So, I mean, even if you don't believe the full story of how we evolved, we know we're not living in caves. We know we're not fighting saber-toothed tigers, right? We know we're not, I mean, most of us, unless you're still living in off-grid or in a cave somewhere. But for the most part, it's like our survival isn't, you know, this like primal thing anymore. So we evolve, and we always had consciousness, but this level of consciousness now, it's like, it's crying for the collective consciousness to tap into this. And this is like our heart-based consciousness, okay? It's like out there's like so much going on in the world, and there's a lot of hurt, there's a lot of pain, there's a lot of guilt, there's a lot of judgment, there's a lot of suffering, okay, that's going on, and it's very heavy. And so in this heavy energy, as a collective unit, we are having to energetically, especially those of you guys who are in tune with energy and just feeling collective consciousness, like having to flesh this out of us. And it's very heavy at times, okay? And so we're no longer these primal beings, and we're no longer also where we were at, you know, 20 years ago, 100 years ago, you know, where we're going to work, having to pay our bills, and having that sort of primal need for survival. Now it's like we understand there's something more. We understand that our heart consciousness, Christ consciousness, our need to transcend from this energy that we're engaged with is lowering our vibration, and it's hurting humanity. So out of our heart consciousness, there's a need to love, and only know love and acceptance and not judgment, because the heart doesn't know judgment. The heart chakra is only open to unconditional love, okay? So it doesn't matter who or what, the heart doesn't make judgment, because we are all brothers and sisters. We're all part of God and consciousness, awareness, we're all connected. So me hating or judging anything at all goes back full circle back to me. So if you know anything with energy, it's like if there is a low or dark energetic polarization happening in the world, the last thing I want to do is charge it with more negative energy and judge it and put forward more lowered vibrational energy and say, I'm going to judge it, or I'm going to hate it, or I'm going to, you know, even if I'm just thinking it or feeling it inside, but I'm going to look at this as this is a being, this is an energy that hasn't found its way. It hasn't connected to heart consciousness. So it hasn't connected to heart consciousness. Therefore, I forgive it, even though there's nothing for me to really forgive, because that's that person's energetic journey. Although I can see beyond, and I say forgive only because if it impacts you, there's a need for us to see this as this person, this energy needs love, you know, and send love energetically rather than a judgment or a hate. Because when we send love, we polarize that energy rather than charging it more negative. And the whole collective consciousness needs more love, right? It doesn't need more of the same, because it perpetuates this thing. So As we sit in love and non-judgment, you know, it's difficult because we can't just turn our feelings on and off. And the feelings are a good indicator of what's going on within ourselves, you know. So this is where shadow work is really important. It's like, are the feelings we're feeling coming from the charged filtration system of our ego? Okay, I'll say that again. Like, is our ego telling us something, our mind or programming, and then it fires up our feelings to charge it? Because if that's the case, then yes, our feelings are true, although it's being triggered by a falsity of a conditioned program or an ego self. Okay, so when you're feeling contracted, if you feel like it's not good, like judgment, hate, hurt, lack, that sort of, you feel like low, like it lowers your vibration, you're not feeling like open, okay, then you know that that's not coming from source, that's not coming from God. God doesn't know hate, God doesn't know lack. There's no lack with God. So when you're feeling love, open, inspired, abundant, you know this is coming from consciousness, from God, from source. So keep note of your feelings, okay? Take note of these feelings. So a lot of times when we're feeling low and we know why we're feeling low, we have to look at the story we're telling ourselves. Where's this lack mindset or this fear mindset coming from? Because it's going to be coming from a place of thinking we're lacking something that's not within us, or we're making judgments based on fear. And if we're basing our thoughts on fear, then that means there's something within us that external thing is reflecting within us in order to look at it. Okay, so this is shadow work for those of you guys. Obviously, we've been on this journey. Like I said, I don't know where you're falling on this, so this might, you know, make sense to some of you guys, but is really being called to kind of connect the dots here for someone. So when we look at this, we obviously question, why am I feeling fear, or why am I feeling lack? Okay, because everything that I ever need is within me, because I am source. Okay, I am an extension of God. I am my own sort of, I'm in this body, but I'm my own consciousness here. So I'm perfect being as I am. So if I'm feeling any sort of negative contraction, I have to understand that has to come from a place of ego, that has to come from a place of conditioning, that has to come from some self-speak. And so we can try to understand it, okay, but it's difficult sometimes to understand things, especially if we came into this world with this, or if we don't know where we've picked it up, because subconsciously we could have just heard someone in our life at any point make a judgment on someone else, and then tuck that away somewhere within us, and then made the connection that I shouldn't be this way, or if I did this, it would be perceived as bad, or it would be looked at as something. So where we tuck those things, we're not quite sure. So the best indicator is just looking at the feeling and saying, if I charge this negative thought that's coming in with my feelings, I'm like promoting this negative, more darker energy here. So we don't want to keep perpetuating this, right? So we have to really be honest and look at ourselves and try to see why we feel the way we feel. And then the minute that happens, we have to go back to that thought and cut it off as best we can, okay, to tell ourselves, and it's difficult at first, but to tell ourselves that the real truth is that we are a perfect being without all of those programs, that behind that is the truth of who we are, and there is nothing lacking. It is all within us. If we know this truth, when we know it and we know it, then it doesn't matter what the mind and the ego tries throwing at us, because the mind and the ego, one and the same, right? The stories and the programming are going to throw everything at us because it knows us inside and out to try to stay alive. It's that survival mode. It's that need to protect us, right? So it's doing what it needs to do, but it's very heavily charged, and it's going to like try throwing everything at you. And so the minute you call it out and see it, you're really going to have to know that ego is just playing tricks on you, okay? And to not keep feeding it with your energy, And allow the thoughts to come in, because it needs to be seen, okay? Because if you try to resist and resist, it's very difficult, because what you resist persists. So what you want to do, you can do what you want, but is when you get that feeling of pain, lack, fear, anything that feels like it's a contracting energy, know that it is you pulling this from within you, and you don't need to do this, okay? You don't have to do this. And once you realize you're doing it because you feel as though there is something lacking, that you know it's a story and it's an illusion that you're creating within your mind, and a story that you're telling yourself, but nothing in the real world is validating this, okay? Nothing's validating making this true. It's just your own inner dialogue, your own inner experience that thinks it's true, and it feeds this, that I'm not good enough, or I'm all these other things, okay? So Spirit wanted you to know this, that you're perfect as you are. And as long as we're acting out of heart consciousness and love, okay? So if we haven't tapped into this love space, and this need and this desire to love, this desire to help humanity, if we're not there, then we haven't reached that level of consciousness yet. And that's okay. There's no judgment here. No one's more better than anyone else. It's like the spiritual journey that we're on. But knowing that that is the ultimate getting closer to God, because God is all love. God is all love, right? And so it's challenging to be all love all the time, all peace and love, because yes, we're human. Although when you're on the spiritual journey, the whole mission, I guess, if you will, or the journey, is to align yourself to the highest version you can of yourself, to bring you as close to God, Christ consciousness, as you can. So being Christly would be to be all loving all the time, to be always forgiving all the time, to be in the energy of love, forgiveness, and purity as best you can. And so as we catch these thoughts coming in, it becomes habit. We catch these thoughts, and we don't allow our emotions to charge the negative feeling, okay? Because those are illusions. None of that stuff is true for you. So back to the portal of the door, I feel like with the eclipse coming in, I feel as though those of you guys here who have been working on your spirituality, like Spirit is saying, like you're crossing this point where now you're going to be really working with other people here in helping them with their spirituality, okay? Like really things coming true for you, blessings, and I've been seeing blessings, blessings, blessings in my readings, okay? That's coming true for you. Everything that you've been trying to align with is coming in for you. Now, this period of time is Spirit giving you space for you to make a lot of adjustments. So we still have some time here, you know, because I mean, there's no such thing as real time when you're thinking, you know, past, present, and future is all in one sort of continuum here. But time is suspended, is what Spirit was telling me. Time is suspended. And the reason this pocket of time is for you to adjust and make space here, because your life is changing in the most profound ways. And what Spirit was saying, and this is for those of you guys, again, that have been more on this journey for some time, is that you've been trying to do the best possible thing, like being very much aligned with giving and trying to do like be on the high road and trying to extend forgiveness and kindness. And it seems like it didn't pay to be a good person, or it wasn't reflected back in your world. Like no matter what sort of beautiful energy you were putting out, it was like people were still taking advantage, or things still weren't lined up, and things were still down, and things that you wanted to manifest were so difficult, and you might have still felt like stuck in a rut. Although spiritually you've been ascending, you've been growing, you've been working on this, but around you, people, situations, people haven't been understanding or working with you, and energy just seemed like it wasn't, you know, that Spirit wasn't working with you to reflect back to you this blessing and these gifts. And now Spirit is saying the doorway is you guys doing the work, like the karmic lessons, the karmic journey that you guys have been sort of forced down has been one of this in order to get to this point. And this point is you shutting the door to people not understanding, to you getting the short end of the deal, is what I heard, or like getting kind of shut out or misunderstood. And now as things align for you, it's like all of the blessings are coming in as a result of this. Okay, like that whole karmic thing and suffering is going to be a thing of the past. And as you start to embrace this new energy, it's a peaceful energy, and yet as you embrace it, it's like you're now a great example here towards helping and aiding and guiding in whatever field you do, because I know I have light workers here and spiritual people. So I don't know, Reiki teachers, tarot readers, healers, whatever you're doing, whoever you're working with, like you guys are making a huge impact in people's lives. And this is coming in very fast, and you're going to be really successful here. Okay. So Spirit is saying, like, giddy up, like, get your house in order, guys. And for those of you guys who feel you've been really, really, really low and just kind of trying to gain traction, you guys are coming through to this doorway as well. And this doorway is going to be one where you're understanding yourself in this spiritual journey, that you're not lacking in anything here, and the door opens to you having all of these options, like all of these options that you didn't even realize you had before, like not feeling confined or stuck to the mercy of the thought, or the mercy of what's happened, and the mercy of feeling very stuck and limited. It's like something goes off within your mind, which the something is the consciousness, okay, and the realization that all of these illusions and stories and egos that I have within me have been making me see myself as less than, or making me feel victim, or and although you didn't want to feel victim, and although you knew it was within you to get empowered, it was like, how do I become empowered? How do I get onto this next phase that I feel I'm supposed to be, again, doing, and you realize it's like, there's no supposed to be, there's no doing, it's just being. And it's a peaceful energy because that heaviness falls off, and as you start to shine the light, you start to shed all of these misconceptions, all of these illusions one by one. But what Spirit was really saying was all of these real subtle things need to be caught, and that's for like everyone here, okay, because we're never without ego. And so as we deal with our challenges, sometimes the biggest challenge is the addiction or the breakup or the big thing, right? And the big thing is usually the one we deal with like first, and it's difficult, but it's very apparent, and we know we need to sort of work with it, and so it triggers us, and we shine the light, and we sit with it, and we heal, and we move forward, and we move back, and we constantly keep trying to work with it, and eventually we're free of it. But that opens doors to other triggers that are more in the subconscious, and they're very subtle. So these subtle things are habitual ways of being that we don't even realize, and that's very difficult to catch. Okay, so that's why it's very important to be very present in the moment and observing everything we do, not judging, okay, just observing, like, why did I do this? Why did I say this? Why am I just kind of on autopilot here? Even though it might not bring any charged emotion, it might not make you feel really good or really bad in any way, but it's like just something you just do habitually. Spirit's saying those are the most important things to be looking at, because those habitual little things you're doing for a very specific reason. And once you see it, you're consciously aware of it. And then you can make the judgment and say, judgment as in, is this something I'm doing just because and it doesn't serve purpose? Or is this something that I get enjoyment out of? Or have I just been doing this and it was autopilot and never even thought of it, right? So you shine that light, and you don't judge yourself saying, I'm a horrible person because of this or whatever. You just look at it and say, yeah, why do I always go out on Saturday night and get a drink after work? Like, whatever the thing is, right? I mean, I think it's more subtle than that, like how we respond, or the little voice in our head that we always kind of have there, but we don't realize it's been there because it's constantly there. Those subtle things. And then once we see it, then we can really like listen to it. Like, you have to really listen to it. Let it be there. Don't energetically charge it with feelings, but listen to it and see what it's saying. And once you're aware of it, then things start to change for you and other things start coming up and other things. And this is how we slowly start to heal these programs, slowly start to be more consciously aware. And obviously, like I said, if it's not coming from a place of love or making us feel open in love towards ourselves or others, then this is not where we want to be. And why it's so important is because when we extend love and see things from a place of love, we can only then be full of love and have love come back to us, okay? But if we are hanging on to anything that feels lack and heavy, then we are bringing into us things that are lack and heavy. It's kind of law of attraction, okay? Although not as simple as, oh, I just, if I have positive thoughts and wish for that car, I'm going to get it. It's much more complicated than that. So that's why law of attraction to me is very like basic, when people enter spirituality with this thought, but it's not about what can I manifest to attain here, these things, and that I start to like beat myself up because like I have this negative thought. Now I'm never getting this car or this thing, right? Like it's not like this. What it is what sort of energy are we carrying within us and perpetuating within us? Because that vibration of energy is what's going to dictate what's coming to us. So we're aware, right? And once we start to make that shift and things start to fall off, then we carry more love and more love and more love. And love is really one energy of God consciousness, okay? So that's the pure state in which that's what's going to come back to you, full love, pure unconditional love. So dropping these things as they fall off is a good thing because it makes the negativity and the lack get smaller and smaller, and it allows what's already there, okay, what's already there, which is perfection and God and love, to shine through more and more, not through that filter. It's already there, like all the love you need, everything's already there. There's no need to search it out, okay? But the darkness is the ego, and that needs to get smaller and smaller, at least seen, okay? Like once you see it, it's no longer in the subconscious. It cannot be in the subconscious once it's observed. So you observe it and it becomes less and less as you observe it, okay? So I am going to pull cards like I promised here with this collective message, just to see, because Spirit was like, you got to pull some cards here to give this collective message to you guys. So Spirit, what is this message? Like, thank you so much for this collective reading for the beautiful viewers here. What message are you wanting to communicate right here, right now? I am so blessed. Thank you so, so much for this message. And please protect me and the viewer as I channel this message for the greatest good of the viewer. And thank you so much, viewer, for allowing me to tap into your energy. I'm so, so blessed. And I love you being here with me and sharing your journey with me. Thank you so much. So I am being called to pull 3 cards. 3 card spirits. What do we need to know? What is this message with this eclipse? Okay, 4 cards. All right, so we have, I don't use these cards often. We have the Wanderer of Knives. Oh my goodness. Okay, so Wanderer of Knives. Well, knives is swords, and in this tarot, the court cards is the Philosopher, the Goddess, the Prophet, and the Wanderer. Okay, so I'm not certain if there's a hierarchy, although the Wanderer to me gives me like page energy, because it's an exciting traveler type energy. It's a type of energy that is ready to explore, is ready to go into any sort of, yeah, like any place here, because the pages are youthful energy. And the fact that we see the Page of Swords here is like going back to my collective message, like we don't know anything, right? Like the more we know we know nothing, and so I think that's the thing, like be always in this Page of Swords energy, always, constantly, it's like I'm always learning. I never know, like even if I'm the most ascended person and know what I know, I still don't know, because I can't attach myself to that thought, because that would bring us back to where we started, and where we started was before the spiritual journey, where we thought we were that identity, where we thought we were, the workplace, we thought we were that whatever, that mother, that the doctor, the lawyer, the whatever car salesman person, right? Like, so we created a vision of who it was that we told ourselves we were, although we existed before this. So we existed before this knowing we were an existing conscious energy. And we were this before we even came into this world. That's who we are. That's our authentic being. So obviously we've been given this body and this mind, and this body and this mind is given to us to experience Christ, to experience life. Okay, so what we're doing here is we want to be open-minded, constantly questioning, constantly not attached to any sort of spiritual way of being, so much so that we shut out everything else, because everything is true, right? Like the people who are in darkness, it's their truth because they're looking through their own filtration, okay? And so we cannot say that they're not spiritually as where we're at, because they have consciousness within them behind all the filtration as well. It's up to them how they deal with this. So I feel like there's a need to constantly question everything in a way, and it's not like being skeptical of every single thing, but question everything, including those subtle things that I was telling you about, of habitual ways that you are with self, okay, or just around people. Like really look at those subtle things, because the most subtle thing is most likely going to have the most profound shift in your energy change. When you identify something that you do, something you say, or a way of being, or something that's been there, and you can spot it, and then you question, like, is this coming from me? Was this something that I was programmed to believe? Or is this even a truth? Or why am I, like, all of these questions, you shine that light, and it then no longer becomes a program. Okay, so the more we question, I feel the more progress we're making. And this is Hangman, which is also about perception. It's not Hangman, but I'm getting Hangman very heavy because of the way this looks, which interesting because it kind of is reminding me of a crucifixion as well. So we're talking about Christ consciousness here, which is giving me very profound energy I'm feeling. So with Hangman, I feel as though this is, again, changing your perception, you know, on other people. How are we judging people? How are we seeing situations? Are we seeing ourselves as righteous? Are we seeing ourselves as less than? Are we seeing ourselves as somebody who needs to do something in order to be worthy of spirituality or ascension or growth? Or are we just allowing ourselves to be, you know, and experiencing things as it is, and not falling victim to stories within our mind that tells us other things are true about us, or other people that are just in our head and illusions built on our own experience. Okay, so obviously, I mean, we have experiences for a reason, but your experience isn't something that trumps another person's experience. And if you guys had polarizing experiences, then who's to say which thought is accurate if both of you guys had two different types of experiences, right? And two people can experience the exact same thing and come away with two different sort of takeaways, right? So this is why this is so important with this Wanderer of Knives. And always have that youthful energy. Like the youthful energy is always questioning. Like when you ask a child something, it's so cute the way they answer, because it's so pure and innocent, and it's not tainted with all of life's programming and all of the conditioning and all of the indoctrination and all of that stuff. It's like, it's so pure, and it's generally the closest answer to consciousness and purity and unconditional love that we can get. And sometimes we need to go back to that. Okay, go back to that. So what else do we have? We have the Four of Stones. So this is the Pentacles suit, and the Four of Pentacles is always where we fear letting go of what we have and stepping towards or exploring towards something new and different. And that's human nature, right? It's like, what I have here might not make me full happy, or at least I tell myself maybe that I am, but it's at the expense of all this beauty that I could be enjoying. Because if I have to hang on to, and if I have to grind, and if I have to be so challenged in maintaining this thing, okay, like this thing, this work, this marriage, this lifestyle, or whatever, if if it feels heavy and if it feels like I'm energetically outputting for it to be in my life, Spirit is saying this isn't the energy you want to be in. You're going to be exhausted and tired, and you don't need to be in this, because what is meant for you doesn't weigh a thing. Okay, it doesn't need to be held back, held down. You don't need to be held back from what you want. So there's a need to examine, what are we hanging on to? Why are we hanging on to it? What story are we telling ourselves that we need it? And are we certain that this thing is the stability? Okay, are we certain we can't get anything better than this? Or is it fear telling us that if I don't, that I can't get anything better than this out there, and what if that doesn't happen? Because then that's lack mindset. We know everything is abundant. Everything's already out there. There is no lack. The lack that you think is within your mind. Okay, the lack that you're attributing to whatever is coming from a place of illusion, because there is no lack. So we start hanging on to things because our mind's telling us lack stories. So anything we're hanging on to, we have to examine. Okay, do not be held back from your dreams, and do not hang on to false idols. I just heard prophets. Do not, that again, going back to the gurus, like, don't hang on to those stories of spiritual teachers, including myself. If something doesn't resonate, you know, or if it's not even resonate, it's like, don't hang on to things as gospel. You know, like, you have pure perfection on your spiritual path of knowing what you need to do when you need to do it. It comes to you. It's going to come naturally to you. You don't need a guidance to do this. You don't need to hang on to that teacher or that channel or that thing so much so to tell you what's next for you. You know this, okay? Strength, Leo energy coming through. This is beautiful, because this to me is always the ego card, and we talked a lot about ego coming through here as the filtration, okay? So ego isn't just I'm arrogant and I think I'm better than everyone else, because people have a false understanding generally of what ego is. Ego is the identities we create within ourselves. We have many, many egos within ourselves, and some of them are really deep rooted in our subconscious. We're not even aware of, okay? And once it's there, it's so hard to see. And this is why being present and in observer mode is super, super duper important, because we can catch ourselves in ego and we don't beat ourselves up. We just notice it every time it comes up. Am I in ego? Am I acting out of subconscious? Am I reactionary to this person? You know, and why did I do that? And then just always being kind of observant of this, it eventually goes away. So this is looking within our fears, and this is also talking about this being held back energy and needing control. You know, like, this is too controlling energies, like being too held back or hanging on to things out of fear, and having to really look at things that we fear, you know, and the things we fear is illusions again, because it's coming from a place of lack. Anytime there's fear, it's tied to understanding, a false understanding that there's lack. Anytime there's fear, then it's a story or an illusion coming from conditioning or programming that needs to be questioned and examined again. Okay. And our final card here, we have the Four of, it looks like crystals, but there's no crystals here. Four of Stones. Four of Stones. Okay, so to me it looks like crystals. Sorry, I don't generally use these, but I'm really pulled into these crystals. And for me, crystals was talking about was spirituality, because, you know, mostly New Age spirituality and crystals and stuff like that. I love crystals, and I do feel the healing properties of crystals. But I feel like there is a purifying process that's being kind of shown here. Yeah, and we can't have Four of Stones again because we have the Four of Stones here. So I'm not certain what this card is, to be honest with you. And there is no real book here, but take a look at this. So intuitively, I'm feeling purification. And the fact that we see, again, like this four, and I thought it was the Four of Stones, which is this card. It's like the purification happens through the process of identifying what we're hanging on to. And this could be staying in our comfort zone, staying in our lane, too fearful to take a chance. It's really an energy here of lack, okay? Whereas the purification is like allowing things to fall off us, allowing things to, like I said, like the ego to dissolve in some way, like the purification process is underway, you know. It's interesting that this is like under the table. So I feel like, I mean, table is obviously all about stability. And I feel like some of you guys have a lot of stability right now, okay? And it's great to have a sense of stability, but what I'm really getting from spirit is there's a need to purify spirit, like spirit and heart, and understand where we're prioritizing stability, because stability is a thing of old consciousness. So like consciousness, like having to have the job, having to have the stable thing is kind of a thing of the past. When we're ascending, and I mean, it doesn't mean that you can't be stable, but our concept of stability, our understanding of what stability is, you know, like more and more people are like quitting their jobs and doing what they love, you know, like now with the evolution of technology and everything kind of shifting, it's like the jobs are completely different. Like you can do what you love and still get paid, you know, and you have that freedom now, especially like I said with technology. So there is no need to look at stability in the same way. And so that's why I'm saying this mindset of stability needs to be examined, really needs to be examined, because I feel like you might be, you, whoever this is tapping into, this might be again a collective message for everyone. I think this is really collective, you know, but it might touch home. It's like now more than ever, really question what you're saying is giving you this stability, and it might be, but it's old sense of stability. And as we ascend and evolve, things are going to change very quickly, and this table can be moved and broken at any point. So as technology changes, as consciousness shifts, as this new earth takes place, and old energy starts to, you know, like primordial energy here, starts to sort of become the old thing, like we really need to question, do we actually have the stability we need? And if it's pure, okay, meaning it really comes from conscious awareness, it's really coming from that God place, it can't be taken away from you. It can't tumble like the tower would. It becomes stable regardless where you are or what happens in this world, because it's pure. It's not coming from an egoic place. It's not coming from a filter that we perceive stability means a 9 to 5, and stability means that I need to, you know, be married with children and have a house and have a car and all of this stuff that most people think is stability, which is kind of being in matrix world. Okay, so there's a huge shift here in saying, what is your stability right now? And, you know, a lot of people would be like, oh, okay, you'd be crazy to just quit your job and go like, you know, live in the woods like a bushman or something, right? Like, I'm not saying that this is what you need to do, but there is a need to question this stability and say, am I selling my spirit? Am I selling my spirituality? Am I in a place of lack, but it's so heavy on me, and this is why I feel disconnected, why I feel removed from source and God, because I know there's something better for me. I know that there's something better, and I can do what I love and find stability and everything abundant here, and be open with my heart, not feel heavy, not feel like I have to stick and grind it out, and all of these stories that we've been conditioned to believe that we have to do in order to pay our bills and live in a world, because this is all changing. This is all changing, you know, as consciousness becomes purified, is what I just heard here, okay? Because we are in a place collectively where we need to purify ourselves. We need to purify humanity. And even if this is just the light workers here setting the path, like we're, you know, we're setting the path here, we're making the way, we're pioneering this for generations to come, because we're evolving, you know, we're no longer, like I said, chasing saber-toothed tigers. We're now knowing there's something more. We're knowing there's source creator that we want to be tied to and feel the love energy. We don't want to feel the suffering. We don't want to feel the grind. We don't want to feel the heaviness, the lack, the burden, the sadness, the sorrow, the suffering. Like, we've had too much of this, okay? So this is purifying what is our stability. So that's the collective message, you guys. I hope this resonated for you. Like I said, I don't think this message was going to be for everyone at all, but I love sharing this with you guys, and I'd like to know where you guys are at with your journey. And I enjoy that you guys are here sharing your stories with me. I love learning with you guys. I'm so blessed to be a part of this community, and I will see you soon. Bye.